She looked me in the eye, tears trembling on her lashes, and said, "I'm keeping the baby." That was the moment I knew we were over. Not because I stopped loving her, but because I couldn't raise a child born from violence, and she knew that. My name's Ryan. I'm 30, and 2 months ago, the woman I loved more than anyone, Claire, was assaulted while walking home from her shift. It happened in a park right outside Philadelphia. She didn't scream. Didn't run. She froze. And when she got home, everything inside her shattered. She refused to go to the hospital. Wouldn't let me call the police. She just sat on the floor in our living room, shaking so violently her teeth chattered, staring at nothing. I wrapped a blanket around her and just held her. For hours. Days. Weeks. It was like her soul had been sucked out, and I was left loving a shell. Claire had struggled with depression before, but this was different. This was bottomless. She barely ate. She barely slept. Most nights she'd jolt awake sobbing, clutching her stomach like she was trying to rip something out. She wouldn't talk unless I asked her a question first. Some nights, I caught her sitting in the shower fully dressed, water running cold, like she was trying to erase something that wouldn't scrub off. I stayed. I did everything I could. Got her into therapy. Cooked for her. Bathed her when she couldn't stand. I quit my work contract overseas early, left a huge bonus on the table just to be by her side. Then last week, we found out she was pregnant. We stared at the test together in silence. My knees went weak. Hers buckled entirely. It wasn't mine. I'd been in London for 2 months before it happened. She knew that. I knew that. We prayed for a false alarm. But the blood tests were clear. She was 6 weeks along. And it belonged to him. She broke down again that night. Screaming, crying, gagging. Said it felt like he was still inside her. Said every second of pregnancy was another moment reliving what he did. She wanted to end it. At least, that's what she said. We talked it over. Held hands. Made a plan. Then she called her mom. That one phone call burned everything down. Her mom's voice might as well have been carved in granite. "You cannot abort. That baby is innocent. It is a life, Claire. A soul. If you kill it, you'll regret it forever." That was it. One conversation. And suddenly Claire, who had been desperate to forget, to survive, was now saying she had to keep the child. That it wasn't the baby's fault. That it could be something good to come from something so evil. I stared at her, trying to understand. And then I said it. The thing that broke us. "I won't raise his child. I can't. I'm sorry." She begged me not to leave her. Said I was the only thing keeping her grounded. Said she needed me. That she loved me. And I told her the truth. If you choose to keep this baby, I have to go. Not because I don't love you, but because I won't survive it. I told her it wasn't a threat. Just the reality of what I could and couldn't live with. Watching her raise a child that came from that night would crush me slowly. It would poison everything between us. I'd grow resentful, distant, broken. And she didn't deserve that version of me. So I left. And now I'm sitting in a hotel room 3 blocks from our old apartment, wondering if I'm the worst person in the world, or the only one who finally told the truth. 3 nights after I walked out, my phone rang. It was Claire. I didn't even think. I answered on the first ring. Her voice came through in broken gasps, the kind of crying that sounded like it had been happening for hours before she called. She didn't even say hello. "I told her," she whispered. "I told my mom I'm getting the abortion. And she blocked me." I didn't know what to say. I sat there, listening to her sob into the receiver like she was trying to drown the sound of her own heartbeat. My chest felt like it had caved in. She'd been fighting a war in her own mind, caught between her trauma and her faith, her mother's voice and her own silence. After I left, she called her mom again, hoping, maybe, for some understanding. She got an ultimatum. "If you kill that child, don't ever speak to me again. You won't be my daughter anymore. You'll burn for it, Claire. And you'll be alone." That sentence shattered her. She didn't argue. She just hung up, shaking, then sat on the floor in our kitchen for over an hour, just staring at the linoleum. When she finally typed out a text, just 10 words, "I'm going to have the abortion. Please don't hate me," she hit send, then watched the screen freeze for a moment. Then everything vanished. Blocked. No calls. No texts. No more mother. Claire told me all this in halting, tear-choked fragments. And then, suddenly, she got quiet. She said, "Ryan, your line in the sand saved me." I didn't understand. Not at first. But she explained, "If you hadn't drawn that boundary, I would have gone through with the pregnancy. Not because I wanted to, but because I didn't want to lose her. And that would have destroyed me." She said she'd been trying so hard to be what everyone wanted, a good daughter, a devout believer, a woman who could turn her pain into purpose, that she stopped asking what she needed to survive. And for the first time, she realized she mattered too. I was stunned. Grateful. Guilty. I told her I never wanted her to hurt. I just couldn't lie about what I could handle. She said that honesty made everything else finally come into focus. Then she said something that undid me completely. "Even if I lost my mom, if I still have you, I can get through this." That night, I came back to the apartment. Not to fix things. Not yet. But to hold her while she cried again, this time from relief. We spent hours just talking. About the attack. About the guilt. About the fear that she'd never be whole again. I didn't pretend to have answers. I just listened. I let her fall apart in my arms. 3 weeks from that night, she has her appointment. A surgical abortion. I promised to be there. From drop-off to pick-up to whatever came next. But not everyone was ready to let her go so quietly. 2 days after she scheduled it, we got a knock at the door. And what happened next made me realize her mother wasn't finished. It was a Saturday morning. Overcast. Quiet. Claire was curled up on the couch in one of my old sweatshirts, eating dry cereal and watching something mindless on TV. For once, there was peace in the room. Then someone knocked. 3 sharp bangs. Not a friendly tap. The kind of knock that made my stomach drop before I even stood up. 2 uniformed officers stood at the door. 1 male, 1 female. The male one spoke first. "Are you Ryan Mitchell?" I nodded, throat suddenly dry. "Yeah. What's going on?" "We received a wellness concern. We need to speak with Claire Daniels." Claire appeared behind me like a ghost. Her face blanched, eyes wide with confusion. The female officer's tone softened. "Ma'am, do you mind if we speak with you privately?" Claire looked at me, then nodded slowly. They split us up, one in the living room with Claire, one pulling me into the bedroom like I was some kind of suspect. The officer questioned me for 20 minutes. Where had she been staying? Had she made any contact with her family? Had I ever raised my voice to her? Was she free to leave? That last one sent a chill down my spine. I asked him directly, "What is this about?" He looked at his notebook, avoided eye contact. "We received an anonymous call suggesting she might be in danger." Anonymous. Right. When they left, I walked back into the living room, bracing for whatever I'd find. Claire was crumpled on the couch, her hands trembling. "They asked if you were abusing me," she said. "If I was being held here against my will. They even asked if I was afraid of you." Then she said the words I already knew were coming. "It was my mom. She called them." I didn't speak. I couldn't. I was afraid of what might come out of my mouth. Claire explained that the call must have happened the day after we confirmed the abortion appointment. Her mom knew, somehow, and instead of confronting her directly, she called the cops. A false report. As if I'd kidnapped Claire. As if I was keeping her from her real family. It was a betrayal so big it didn't even feel real at first. The woman who raised her had dialed 911 and tried to turn Claire's entire support system into a crime scene. I was furious. Boiling. I wanted to press charges, harassment, defamation, something. Claire begged me not to. She's lost her mind, Ryan. But she's still my mother, she said, her voice hoarse from crying. I couldn't believe it. Claire was still protecting her. Even now. The next day, she called her mother. I didn't listen to the words. I just watched her expression as she stood in the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear. And then it happened. 2 minutes in, Claire broke down sobbing, still clutching the phone. I took it from her hand gently. Her mom was still speaking. I didn't wait. I put the phone to my ear and said, "You're a disgrace to the word mother," then hung up without giving her the satisfaction of a reply. Claire didn't say anything. She just leaned into me like she couldn't hold herself up anymore. Later, between sobs, she told me what her mom had said this time. "If you go through with the abortion, you'll never see me again. Or your brother. Or your father in heaven." Her dad, who died when she was 14. A drunk who used to slam doors and break things when he was angry. Her mom weaponized his memory like a final bullet. I told Claire that night, "If you're going to hell for this, save me a seat. We'll be toasty together." She smiled, just a little. That broken, tired smile I'd missed. But I knew deep down, this woman who tried to destroy her own daughter's life wasn't finished yet. Not by a long shot. 3 weeks after the police showed up at our door, Claire walked into the clinic with her chin high and her hands shaking. I stayed with her until they called her name, then waited in the car for what felt like a lifetime. Every second ticked by like it was daring me to break. I kept checking my phone, refreshing the weather app, flipping through radio stations, anything to keep from imagining her alone in that room. Then she texted, "All done. I'm okay." When she got into the car, her body collapsed into mine like she'd been holding her breath for months. I wrapped my arms around her and felt her exhale, long and ragged, like she was finally letting the weight drop. Back home, she didn't say much. She went to bed early. I sat beside her, listening to her breathing settle into a rhythm I hadn't heard in weeks. But around midnight it all came out. She woke with a gasp and started sobbing uncontrollably. The kind of sobs that rip through your chest and leave silence in their wake. I just held her, feeling her pain shake through me. She clutched my arm like she was afraid I'd disappear if she let go. "It's gone," she whispered. "It's finally gone." The next day, for the first time in weeks, Claire smiled. Not a forced one. A real smile. The kind that doesn't ask permission. She said she felt lighter. Said it was the first time she could breathe since that night in the park. We took the week off. Went camping. A little spot upstate. It rained, because of course it did, but we didn't care. We huddled under the tarp, ate soggy granola bars, and listened to the rain hit the nylon like tiny fists trying to get in. It was miserable. It was perfect. Claire talked. Really talked. About the weight she'd carried. The dreams she used to have, violent, terrifying ones. The shame. The guilt. The way her mom's voice echoed louder in her head than her own thoughts. She told me she finally felt like her body belonged to her again. Then the phone rang. Claire froze. I knew who it was before she even turned the screen to show me. Her mom. We'd agreed, if she ever called again, Claire would either hang up or hand the phone to me. This time, out of habit or curiosity, she answered, and immediately regretted it. The moment she said, "Hello?" her mother's voice erupted through the line. "Did you do it? Did you kill the baby?" Claire's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her hands were shaking. She looked at me and passed me the phone like it was made of fire. I took it. "Yes," I said calmly. "It went perfectly." A pause. Then the woman on the other end of the line began unleashing a storm of profanity so thick it could have melted drywall. She shrieked curses at me, blamed me for destroying her family, accused me of brainwashing her daughter and murdering a child of God. I listened. For about a minute. Then, in a voice that sounded way too calm for what I was feeling, I said, "How Jesus of you!" Then I hung up. Claire didn't laugh. She just looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. She said nothing, just leaned her forehead against mine and whispered, "Thank you?" That was the end of it. Or so we thought. Because the final act, the real fallout from her mother's rage, was still coming. And we weren't ready for what she'd try next. We thought it was over. We thought we'd survived the worst of it, the trauma, the pregnancy, the betrayal, the screaming phone calls. But Claire's mother had one more card to play. One more move that almost broke everything again. It came 2 weeks later, on a Tuesday afternoon. Claire was finally starting to feel like herself again. We were at a bookstore. She was flipping through a worn copy of The Secret Garden, something she loved as a kid. She smiled, actually smiled, as she read one of the lines out loud to me. Then her phone rang. She flinched. Slowly pulled it from her coat pocket. Her smile vanished. It was her mom. Again. We had an agreement. This time, she followed it. She handed me the phone wordlessly. I answered. Her mother didn't scream this time. She was calm. Too calm. "I hope you're proud," she said. "You took everything from her. From us. But I've spoken to Father Jenkins, and I've filed a formal petition." I frowned. "What are you talking about?" "She's being excommunicated," she said matter-of-factly. "The church agrees this was murder. They're removing her from the registry. And as of today, she's no longer welcome at St. Ignatius. Her name will be stripped from the baptism records." That hit harder than I expected. Not because I cared about her church, but because I knew what that place meant to Claire. It had been her sanctuary. Her safe place. Her last tie to a version of herself that believed in goodness and grace. And now it was gone. I didn't tell Claire until we got home. She was in the kitchen, still clutching that book. I told her everything, gently. Watched the realization ripple through her like a quiet earthquake. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just said, "So that's it. I'm really alone now." I walked over and put my arms around her. "No," I said. "You're not. Not even close." She nodded, but I could tell something inside her had gone quiet again. That night, while she slept, I made a decision. I opened my laptop. Logged into the shared drive we used for storing her old church donation records, her volunteer hours, her childhood photos from the parish youth retreat. All of it was still there. I downloaded everything. Then, in the Notes app, I wrote a letter. Not to her mother, but to the entire church board. It was 10 pages long. I included everything: the timeline of the assault, the trauma, the pregnancy, the emotional blackmail, the police visit, the false report, the harassment. I attached screenshots of her mom's texts, the voicemail transcript, the wellness check summary from the officers. Even the threats. Then I ended the letter with this: "If excommunication is the path you take, let it be known that your silence and complicity mirror the cruelty you claim to condemn. Claire did not murder a child, she saved herself. She found the courage to live. If your God cannot see that, then perhaps he's not the one worth worshipping." I signed it. Attached a photo of Claire, one I'd taken just the day before. She was smiling at a duck waddling across a frozen lake. She looked so alive. And I hit send. We never heard back from the church. But 2 days later, someone from Claire's old youth group, a woman she hadn't spoken to in years, messaged her privately. I read what he wrote. "I had no idea. I'm so sorry. You're not alone." The dam broke after that. Other messages followed. A couple people left the church altogether. One even offered to host a support group. Claire's inbox turned from stone silence to quiet solidarity. It wasn't the apology she deserved, but it was proof she hadn't been erased. We left town a month later. Started over in Asheville. Claire's taking a class on grief counseling now. Wants to help other women. I think she's going to be amazing at it. As for me, I've never loved someone more than I love her now. Her strength didn't come from faith. It came from surviving. From making an impossible choice. From letting go of the voices that told her she had to bleed quietly. And if her mother still prays for our damnation? Good. She can save us 2 seats. Because we'll be warm. But we'll be together.